Ladies and gentlemen, hold on to your wigs and wallet chains, because Atlanta's nightlife just turned into a full-blown episode of Love and Hip Hop meets WWE. Picture this: champagne spraying, bass thumping, Instagram filters working. Over time, and in the middle of all that glitter and glow, Kirk Frost and Young Jock apparently decided the dance floor was the perfect place to serve Lil Scrappy a side of beef hotter than a Waffle House grill at 3 a.m. What could possibly push three grown men with matching diamond smiles and enough designer drip to flood the room into almost throwing hands in front of half of Atlanta? Oh, trust me, it's messy. We're talking whispers of betrayal, alleged backchannel, shade, and receipts so juicy they could drown an iPhone. And here's the kicker: this wasn't just a drunken misunderstanding. Oh no, this, my friends, is a scandal years in the making. If you thought the club drama you saw on social media last night was wild, you have no idea what's lurking under the surface. So grab your popcorn, because I'm about to spill it all. And yes, somebody's career might not survive this one. Atlanta's nightlife just got a shockwave that nobody saw coming. Picture this: the club lights cutting through the fog, bass so heavy it rattled your teeth, champagne flowing like a river, and right in the middle of it all, Kirk Frost and Young Jock walking in like kings surveying their kingdom. On the other side of the room, Lil Scrappy was doing what he does best, commanding attention with that infectious energy that has made him a fan favorite for years. But this wasn't going to be just another night of champagne toasts and Instagram stories. There was history here, a simmering tension that had been brewing under the surface for longer than most people knew. And last night, it decided to make its grand entrance. Kirk and Jock didn't just stroll into the club. They moved with a purpose. Eyes darting across the room, scanning the crowd until they landed on Scrappy, who was completely oblivious, or maybe just pretending to be. The energy around them was palpable, like static before a storm, and anyone paying attention could feel it in their bones. Friends and fans alike stopped mid-step to glance at the unfolding scene, sensing that something big was about to happen. The whispers started instantly. Did you see the way Kirk's looking at Scrappy? Jock is moving like he's ready for trouble. Even the waitstaff, seasoned veterans of celebrity drama, were dropping off bottles quicker than usual, aware that the air had shifted. The stage was set and everyone in the club could feel it. For years, these three names had floated in the same circles at events, award shows, and private parties, always keeping a polite distance, always exchanging nods and smiles that barely concealed what lay underneath. Scrappy's rise in popularity had not gone unnoticed, and not everyone was thrilled. He had built a reputation for being outspoken, fearless, and unapologetic, traits that endeared him to fans but made certain others in the scene nervous. Kirk and Jock, seasoned veterans of the Atlanta entertainment landscape, were not strangers to ego and reputation, and in their eyes, Scrappy represented a challenge, a potential disruption to the balance they had maintained for years. The music pounded on, but in that VIP corner, the beat seemed irrelevant. All eyes were on the subtle, almost imperceptible exchanges. Kirk leaned in toward Jock, murmuring something that sounded like a plan, a calculated strategy that only the two of them understood. Jock's nod was slight, almost imperceptible, but it carried a weight that made the tension thicken. Scrappy laughed and moved with his usual charm, clinking glasses and greeting fans, but the way he occasionally glanced toward them betrayed a sliver of awareness. This was not going to be casual banter. This was about power, pride, and a battle of wills that had been quietly brewing for years. The first sparks ignited when Kirk and Jock, confident and deliberate, started weaving through the packed dance floor, creating a path that drew glances from every direction. People began to sense the inevitable collision, moving aside or pressing closer to witness what looked like an impending confrontation. Scrappy, now aware of their approach, squared his shoulders, a slight tension in his jaw betraying that even someone as confident as him felt the weight of this moment. When the distance closed, the music seemed to fade, replaced by the sharp, unspoken electricity between the three men. Kirk's voice cut through the chaos, calm but threatening, calling out the accusations that had been brewing behind the scenes for months. Jock flanked him, amplifying the intensity, while Scrappy responded with defiance, fist clenching slightly, a mixture of anger and pride crossing his features. Around them, the crew shifted uneasily, friends and bystanders holding their breath, waiting for the first spark to ignite a blaze that everyone knew could go either way. Receipts, whispers, and rumors had built this tension into a pressure cooker, and now it was reaching the boiling point. Every word, every gesture, every glance was loaded with implications. The security guard's eventual intervention barely contained the storm, forcing the trio apart before it could erupt fully, but the damage was done. The energy in the room had shifted irreversibly. What started as a private tension between three influential figures became the talk of the club, a scene captured in snippets on shaky phones and destined to explode across social media. Observers speculated wildly, some exaggerating details, some outright fabricating moments, but everyone agreed on one thing: the simmering conflict between Kirk, Jock, and Scrappy was no longer hidden. Even as they returned to their respective corners, the unspoken threat lingered. Eyes started, whispers circulated, and the club's glamorous veneer barely concealed the fact that a full-blown drama was quietly taking root. Behind the bravado, both sides were already plotting, already anticipating the next move, and while the night went on, nobody could shake the sense that this confrontation was only the opening act of something far larger, far more sensational, and far more unforgettable than anyone in that club had yet imagined. And the tension didn't just fade once Kirk and Jock returned to their booth. If anything, it grew heavier, seeping into every corner of the club like smoke from a candle nobody wanted to blow out. People whispered, glancing at their phones, refreshing social media feeds, trying to see if anyone caught the confrontation on camera, and of course, they had. The videos were shaky and short, but they were already sparking wild speculation. Anonymous accounts were posting captions like, "Kirk and Jock just confronted Scrappy over receipts, and ATL drama hitting different tonight," while others claimed insider knowledge, embellishing every movement, every glare, every clenched jaw. Meanwhile, behind closed doors, or at least behind the velvet ropes, Kirk and Jock were quietly strategizing. Sources who wish to remain unnamed and may or may not exist have reportedly confirmed that there were heated discussions earlier in the week, text exchanges and messages that allegedly hinted at a confrontation like the one that just unfolded. There's talk that Scrappy has been spreading stories, laughing with the wrong people, and perhaps unknowingly crossing lines that Kirk and Jock weren't about to let slide. One source supposedly told our investigator they've been building up to this for months. It's not about the club. It's about respect. It's about who controls the narrative. And let's be honest, in the ATL scene, controlling the narrative is everything. The club staff noticed it too. Bartenders and waitresses, who usually see every shade of drama, were whispering amongst themselves. "I've never seen them this tense," one staff member allegedly said. "You could feel it before they even approached him. It was like the air was electric, and I don't even mean that metaphorically." The word electric kept getting repeated, which is interesting, because anyone who's ever been inside an Atlanta nightclub knows the air can be thick with perfume, alcohol, and sweat, and yet somehow that night it was thick with anticipation, fear, and maybe a touch of impending chaos. Meanwhile, Scrappy's crew wasn't idle either. They reportedly huddled around him, speaking in low tones, trying to figure out how to respond if the situation escalated. One anonymous insider claimed Scrappy was calm on the outside, but you could tell he was thinking 5 steps ahead. He's not the type to fold, but he's also smart enough to know when to hold back. And hold back he did, at least for the moment. Social media blew up in real time. Hashtags that didn't exist 5 minutes earlier were trending. Screenshots of texts and supposed receipts were circulating, and fan accounts began debating who was right and who was wrong. There were memes, exaggerated takes, and even reaction videos claiming to have broken down the confrontation frame by frame. The internet, as always, took the drama and turned it into performance art, and while all this was happening online, the real-life tension was far from over. Kirk was reportedly fuming, scrolling through the comments, shaking his head at the misinterpretation of the situation. Jock, ever the calmer strategist, suggested a follow-up, a subtle reminder that they weren't to be trifled with. Sources say they were not just thinking about the club incident, but about the public perception and how to manage it. Scrappy, on the other hand, maintained his cool facade, sipping his drink, giving the occasional nod to crew members who were still visibly on edge. "They think this is the end," he allegedly muttered to someone beside him. "They don't know what's coming next." There were also rumors of private messages, alleged exchanges that hinted at financial disputes, collaborations gone wrong, and miscommunications that spiraled into the public spectacle everyone witnessed. The combination of ego, past grudges, and alleged betrayals made this situation combustible. Some eyewitnesses reported that Kirk and Jock had been filming the club entry, allegedly for social media, but others suggest it was part of a more calculated plan to create leverage, a premeditated move to intimidate Scrappy without sparking a full-blown fight. The ambiguity only added to the drama. Every movement, every glance, and every whispered word was scrutinized, analyzed, and broadcast in real time, creating an atmosphere where reality and rumor blurred. Meanwhile, the broader public couldn't get enough. Fans debated endlessly. Was Scrappy in the wrong? Were Kirk and Jock overreacting? Was this just a publicity stunt, or had the simmering tension finally reached its boiling point? Tabloids and gossip sites reportedly picked up the footage within minutes, spinning headlines designed to shock, entertain, and fuel further speculation. Nightclub showdown. Kirk and Jock confront Lil Scrappy over mystery messages in Atlanta. Legends clash and VIP chaos were among the top trending stories. Even mainstream outlets couldn't resist, covering the incident as if it were a national headline. And the sources behind these stories, real or imagined, added layers of intrigue. Allegedly, someone close to Scrappy revealed that he had been warned weeks in advance that tensions were rising, and someone close to Kirk and Jock allegedly confirmed that they had been monitoring his every move. The lines between truth, exaggeration, and outright fabrication were already beginning to blur, which of course made the drama irresistible. The fallout in the club itself was visible. Groups of onlookers whispered excitedly, some backing away to give space, others pressing closer to catch every moment of potential chaos. Security had to remain vigilant, not just to prevent violence, but also to manage the throng of fans who wanted to be part of the unfolding spectacle. And all the while, the men at the center of the storm, Kirk, Jock, and Scrappy, maintained their outward composure, which only added to the suspense. Nobody knew when, if ever, the next move would be made, and the speculation was feeding a frenzy that extended far beyond the club walls. The social media storm raged on, with fabricated conversations, fake screenshots, and wildly speculative commentary flooding feeds, fueling both fan excitement and the growing pressure on everyone involved. For Kirk and Jock, this was about more than just a single night of drama. It was about sending a message, controlling the narrative, and asserting dominance in a scene where perception is everything. For Scrappy, it was about survival, pride, and maintaining the reputation that had made him a household name. Every minute that passed added tension, anticipation, and a sense that the next move could tip the scales completely, keeping everyone on edge, glued to their screens, and wondering, who would blink first? As the night wore on, the tension that had been simmering in the club began to evolve into something far more dangerous. Kirk and Jock were no longer just waiting and watching. They were calculating, mentally preparing their next move with a focus that suggested this confrontation was far from over. Every glance they cast toward Scrappy was loaded with meaning, every subtle gesture scrutinized by both their entourage and Scrappy's crew. The rumors circulating online had reached a fever pitch by now, with hashtags and viral posts multiplying by the second. People were debating endlessly whether the encounter was a staged publicity stunt or a genuine showdown rooted in years of rivalry and simmering resentment. Scrappy's expression remained calm on the outside, but those close to him could see the tension in his eyes. The slight tightening of his jaw, the way his hands occasionally fidgeted with his drink, all subtle signs that he was aware of the stakes. Allegedly, sources whispered that texts and private messages had been flying behind the scenes for weeks, some threatening exposure of secrets, others promising to reveal everything that's been going on. One insider supposedly said, "This isn't just about the club. It's about power, control, and who's running the narrative in Atlanta's nightlife scene. No one wants to be seen as weak, and nobody wants to lose to Scrappy or anyone else." As the crowd continued to murmur, security remained on high alert, aware that even the smallest spark could ignite a full-blown fight. Drinks clanked, phones flashed, and whispers grew louder as onlookers tried to decode every micro-expression, every subtle body language cue. Even the DJ seemed to be aware that the atmosphere had shifted, his music thumping in the background almost as if to punctuate the mounting tension. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, Kirk and Jock reportedly reviewed social media reactions with a mix of frustration and determination. Every comment, every meme, every fabricated screenshot added fuel to their plan, pushing them further toward the next inevitable encounter. Scrappy, aware of the mounting storm, seemed to weigh his options, balancing the need to defend his reputation with the wisdom of not overreacting too soon. His crew reportedly whispered strategies, debated approaches, and tried to anticipate the moves of Kirk and Jock, knowing that any misstep could escalate the situation beyond control. Outside the club, the rumor mill was already in overdrive. Fans and influencers were spreading conflicting reports, some claiming that punches had nearly been thrown, others suggesting that the confrontation had been entirely verbal but charged, with an intensity that could only be described as cinematic. News outlets, bloggers, and gossip accounts capitalized on the chaos, framing the narrative as a clash of Atlanta legends, a battle for supremacy in the city's nightlife hierarchy. The combined effect of live witnesses, viral clips, and speculative commentary created a pressure cooker environment, amplifying tension for everyone involved. And while the drama played out publicly, privately, Kirk and Jock were reportedly plotting their next steps, analyzing every reaction from Scrappy and his crew, planning how to maintain control of the situation, and ensuring that their dominance in the scene remained unquestioned. Scrappy, on the other hand, was equally determined, his pride and reputation driving him to remain unshaken, yet fully aware that one miscalculation could be costly. According to whispers from insiders, discussions about potential legal repercussions, reputation management, and strategic alliances were taking place in real time, turning what began as a club confrontation into a larger battle with far-reaching consequences. By the time the night was winding down, Kirk and Jock had finally decided to leave, their exit as calculated as their entrance. They moved silently past lingering onlookers, their expressions unreadable, their minds already on the next move-in. Would it become an ongoing saga? Scrappy watched them go, jaw tight, eyes narrowing, understanding that this was far from over. Even in the cool night air outside the club, the charged atmosphere lingered, an invisible thread connecting the three men in a web of rivalry, pride, and anticipation. Social media continued to explode with commentary, reactions, and exaggerated takes, fueling the drama further and keeping the public engaged in a narrative that seemed to evolve with each passing minute. Observers debated endlessly who had the upper hand, whose reputation had been bolstered, and whose ego had been bruised. Meanwhile, insiders claimed that the real battle had just begun, a calculated chess game of influence, power, and public perception that would unfold over the coming days, weeks, or even months. The tension that night was not just about a fleeting argument or a moment of confrontation. It was about setting the tone for the future, asserting dominance in a highly visible social scene, and sending a message that every move, every comment, and every gesture would be scrutinized, judged, and dissected by both peers and the public alike. For fans, the drama was irresistible. A live-action spectacle unfolding in real time with real stakes and personalities they already loved to watch. For the players themselves, it was a delicate balance between caution, strategy, and the desire to assert authority, to make a statement that would resonate beyond the walls of the club and into the wider world of fame, influence, and notoriety. The night ended with no punches thrown, no final declaration of victory, just lingering tension, unspoken threats, and the heavy knowledge that the story was far from over. The aftermath, the reactions, the planning, and the anticipation of what would come next ensured that this confrontation would not be forgotten anytime soon, and that every eye, both in Atlanta and online, would remain glued to the unfolding saga, waiting for the next explosive move in a drama that had only just begun. So, what do you think is really going on here? Is this just another night of VIP drama blown way out of proportion, or is Atlanta about to witness a showdown that could change the game forever? Are Kirk and Jock actually plotting their next move, while Scrappy sits there calculating his own counterattack, or is all of this just smoke and mirrors for social media clout? The lines between truth, rumor, and exaggeration are blurred, and that's exactly what makes this so irresistible. One thing is for sure, nobody involved is backing down, and every move, every glance, every post online is now part of the story. We want to hear from you. Who do you think came out on top last night? Who's playing chess and who's playing checkers in this escalating saga? Could this tension erupt into something bigger than anyone expected, or will it all fizzle out after the cameras stop rolling? Drop your thoughts in the comments, share your theories, and don't hold back. Hit that like button if you want us to keep digging into every juicy detail of this feud, and make sure you subscribe because trust. And you do not want to miss what happens next. The story is far from over and we're just getting started.